everybody, and welcome to another episode of Words, 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 the podcast where we read and discuss. I'm Daniel.
I'm Heidi.
Colin.
And today we are discussing Ruth Ware's In a Dark, Dark Wood. Heidi, do you have a question to start us off with today?
Yeah. It a little bit pertains to the book, not that much. But if you could erase a book or a piece of media from your mind to like re-experience, for the first time.
This is going in a different direction because when you said that, I was like, because you hate it so much.
Same thing. I was like, damn, Heidi's coming out swinging.
That's crazy. No, you can re-experience it again for the first time. What would that be?
Boy.
This is easy. A Memory of Light. If I could experience any book for the first time, it'd be A Memory of Light. My runner-up would be a single chapter, and it would be Veins of Gold in The Gathering Storm. But A Memory of Light is straightforward for me. It's the culmination of 14 and a half books into some fantastic writing and planning by Robert Jordan Sanderson and Harriet Jordan. And I think it is the single greatest life experience I've probably ever had, not to be dramatic.
I'm going to give two, I think. I feel like my first one's a bit of a cop-out. But if I could see, especially because I saw them when I was in middle school, but if I could see the Lord of the Rings trilogy again, for the first time, like there was something magical about that as a kid, getting to grow up with those movies. Like it became a tradition where every, I think, New Year's Day, we would go out to the theater and watch the new one for those 3 years. But I do think it's a bit of a cop-out because I think a lot of geeks would say that. I'm going to go a little bit off the wall. I don't know if either of you have read the book this is based on, but I saw the play The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime on Broadway. It is a story about a boy who has a learning disability that is autism and everything but name. Like the author doesn't name it. I don't think the stage play names it, but it's so obviously that it has that going for it, where it's got a main character who is autistic, but the way that it was choreographed on Broadway, it's one of those shows where I came out being like, this is why I make theater. Like they had choreography where they were like, they would pick up this boy and he'd like walk on the sides. And it was depicting essentially in movement and in technology and a lot of different things, the workings of the autistic mind. And it was just, it kind of blew my mind, the creativity that went into it.
I don't think you guys are in a million years would be able to guess my answer.
Well, if it's not Lord of the Rings, then...
I mean, it is kind of, but...
But you agree with me that it's a cop-out.
And also, like, that is so much information that I would erase from my head that I don't think I would be the same person.
That's probably true.
Yeah. So my answer is Star Wars. And the reason is I haven't even seen all of the movies,
I'm assuming
the originals or anything. Yeah. I mean, any of them, but the main reason is that I didn't get the like big reveal watching the movies organically. I just knew Darth Vader, I am your father. Like I knew that already when I watched it the first time. So like it didn't hit. And I think that if it did, like at the age where everyone was into it when I was a kid, that kind of thing, then I might like sci-fi more than I do now. Like I would be a different person.
My dad, he grew up in the 70s, so he's a huge Star Wars fan. It's like his favorite thing in the world. He built himself a stormtrooper costume. He wears it for Halloween every year. Like the total nerd of the nerds. He forced me and my sister to watch it. My sister earlier than me because I'm younger than her. When I was probably like 6. So like I would have no access to that stuff, and I didn't know. And Heidi, that's a great answer because I actually like that's one of my first movie memories period in my life is Empire Strikes Back. So
I don't have that.
Extreme respect to your dad for that.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
That makes it such a good answer, a well thought out answer. Mine was just A Memory of Light because I loved it.
No, and I mean, that's valid too, because you can't experience that again for the first time. That was on my mind also when I was thinking about this question. My other like non-interesting answer is Brother Anya Alborn. I've talked about that book so many times on this podcast. It's the most fucked up book I've ever read. The entire book is just a gut punch after gut punch, and it's so fucked up. But the ending really shook me in a way that, like, hadn't for a long time in my reading journey. Let's talk about In a Dark, Dark Wood. Holy crap. Well, first, gut reactions. That's how we usually start these discussions. What did you guys think?
I'm going to go first so we could start on a more positive note.
Please.
I thought the book was fine. It's not a book I foresee myself reading again. It's not necessarily a book I would recommend to, for instance, we have a bunch of common friends. I don't know if I would recommend it to maybe one person in there, but not to everybody in there. I'd probably recommend it to my mom. My mom has been, it has taken my mom like 6 months to get through The Devils. She's still going through it. So that's what I mean by mom book there. But it's fine. There's some really interesting parts. There's some really not interesting parts. There's some really annoying characters. There's some funny moments from characters. I didn't like really anybody at all in the book, but sometimes that doesn't matter to me because there's some books that I hate every character and it's intentional. I don't know if it was intentional here. I think you're actually supposed to like the main character, but I really didn't. The book it's an interesting one, but it has a lot of pros too. I think it's a very quick read. It's easy. It's a page turner. It is a little thrilling. It's exciting. So I came out above 50% positive on it, and I think it's a fine book.
Here's the negative. I am not a DNFer, and I wouldn't for this podcast anyway. I think there's something in my autistic brain that says you have to, if you pick up a book, you're going to finish it unless you just lose interest in it. But I don't like intentionally do not finish anything. It's more just like my brain moves on to the next shiny thing because I'm also ADHD. I have bounced off of, in a negative way, very few books as much as I bounced off of this one. There are positives, and we'll talk about those. I think the actual like writing of it and the setting are the positives, but I'm a plot and I'm a character guy, and both of those things failed for me. And I'll talk about why later. Also, really bad disability representation. Again, something that we'll probably talk about later.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was fine. Like Colin said, I probably wouldn't recommend it to like a lot of people. I thought there was I think I'm like 50-50 on like the good and the bad. There was some thrilling parts, which is what it was supposed to do. I think that the cover was misleading, if I'm being completely honest.
It does bill itself almost as horror, and
so does the intro to the book as well.
Yeah.
Which is probably my favorite part of the book.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be, excuse me, I thought it was going to be thriller, but like with horror elements.
So did I.
Which is like my bag. Like I love that kind of thing. So I was looking forward to it, doing a little bit more research into the author and this book in particular. Most people say that it's like middle of the pack. She has books that are not as good. She has a handful that are much better. It's her debut also. So
I think she actually has a one of her books was recently made into a middle of the road received Netflix movie, but still with Keira Knightley, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's The Girl in Cabin 10 or something like that.
So I like talking about the structure of books. I like to read books that have like more unique structures. I don't think this one is particularly unique as far as like thrillers. Like it goes from current Nora's in the hospital and dealing with like the after effects of, you know, what you read, and then also like her sort of remembering the situation in the house in the woods. I wanted to get your guys' feedback on that. I thought it was okay. There were parts that I thought could have been done better. I think sometimes it even took away from like the suspense. And I mean, like every chapter felt like it sort of tried to end on a little like tense sentence or moment or something. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And then it would go, I woke up in the hospital. I sat in the hospital. And it kind of, so sometimes it worked for me to build the tension in that way, like, oh, what's going to happen next? And then we go to the hospital and you're like, oh, what's going to happen next? But so I'm a little bit 50-50 on that specifically. I wanted to know what you guys thought of that too.
I think what failed the most as a thriller for me is if you're going to have red herrings, and there's red herrings in this book, you got to pay them off at at some point. Nina's should have been a suspect, like an actual, like, my God, did she actually do it? But the author just plays it off. What's Claire's friend, the really creepy one?
Hello.
Flo, R.I.P. Flo. She's also like very much the red herring, and even then, like, there's little to no payoff for the red herring there. I want to talk, I think, more about the hospital bit and the actual the setting more when we talk about later questions that you have, Heidi, that I know that are coming up. I think those are the more I think she does a decent job of building up tension and then squanders it all. That's what I'm going to say.
I typically am not a fan of that kind of nonlinear back and forth storytelling for the reason you both have mentioned, specifically you, Heidi, that it kind of spoils and takes away the thriller aspect a lot. I think this book would have been a lot more interesting if I'm wondering if Nora's going to survive. But now I know she's going to survive. And then, so there's that. And then I get it. Like, the more thrilling aspect is she going to get locked away for this? But I never once thought she was going to go to jail for this. So, I was on the edge of my seat with that. I was curious who did it. Like both you said, it's pretty obviously Claire. Well, I actually talked myself out of it being Claire. So I was like, there's no way she's going to be that obvious. There's that. And then I agree. The Flo whole bit is kind of weird. I don't like how Flo was written. She's just written as real kind of nutty. And I think there was something interesting that could have been done there, like this total just attachment and trying to um, almost live through and be this person and try to do everything you can for her. But she kind of just didn't really go anywhere with that because she just kind of swallows a bunch of pills really sadly off scene and all that. So I didn't like that. I thought the whole Mel aspect was really weird too. How like you have this whole character the mom character who kind of freaks out and leaves.
And that's
And
it.
they just kind of never referenced
Yeah.
her again. Was that supposed to just be like, show you like, wow, this is a really weird evening? I don't know.
I think maybe it was to be, you can leave, and Nora should have left at many points, which is like, I'm sorry, you lose me in the beginning when you're like, you haven't seen this girl since you were 16, and you're not even invited to the wedding, and you're going to the
And she
bachelorette party.
goes.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
It's
that's
such
how
an
it's like.
unplausible premise for me, and
And then it's like,
look, I love science fiction and fantasy. Like, I can suspend disbelief. I could not suspend my disbelief for that.
and it's like, how could it be anybody other than Claire at that point?
Yeah.
Like when that's the setting, like it's it's just really weird. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about what is his name, James, later. But mainly going back to the storytelling question, I'm not a fan of going back and forth in general. I don't mind it in a Stormlight Archive book where it's to give me backstory on Kaladin or Shallan to kind of make them make sense. I don't mind going back. I don't like going forward, if that makes sense. I like when the present chapters are as far as it gets. I don't mind going backwards to learn some why Kaladin has a slave brand, right? I don't mind that. But going forward, it takes me out, and then I'm just kind of like, oh, can we get back? Can we get back to my timeline? Especially because I didn't care. I knew it was going to work out, so that kind of went into it.
Yeah, I never thought she did it.
Yeah, I never thought.
Can I ask you one question, Colin? Because like what I said, we've established your cinephile. Because I know you said that you just said that you don't like going forward in time, but I think it can work in specific bits. One of my favorite movies ever is Arrival, and I think that does it masterfully.
It works so well in Arrival, but that's Denis Villeneuve, right? And
True.
no shade to Ruth Ware, but she's no Denis, right? Like Denis is like my top 3 favorite directors of the 21st century. So,
But when you actually build like a very good puzzle box where it fits in, I think
You
it can be a good
and it can be mysterious.
mechanic.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just when you really aren't invested in the future timeline because you know it's going to be okay. It's just like,
Right. It goes to what I'm gonna, I think, argue for a lot in my criticism here, which is that it seemed to be a mechanic to obscure the narrative more than it tended to be something to support the narrative or to
Yeah.
add to the story.
Yeah.
It was like, this story by itself is going to be very unsatisfying. So how do I make it more satisfying? And if that's the reason for, we'll get to this, I think it's the next question, the unreliable narrator, then it falls flat for me.
Yeah, that leads right into that. Nora, the back and forth, she's in the hospital. She doesn't remember a lot of the story. She kind of remembers it in the, that's like the whole point of going back to her in the hospital. Do you think what we read is the truth of the scenario? Because there's also that argument that's like, there are three sides to the story: your side, my side, and the truth. So I want to know if you guys think that is at play here, and how her being so unreliable impacted that.
Ruth Ware is playing with the unreliable narrator, but I don't think she's actually engaging with it. In that, like, I disagree with you. I think what we got is, because I don't think the writing is skillful enough to actually give us a ending like, oh God, Colin, what's the end of the movie? Leonardo DiCaprio, there's the top is spinning. Inception. I don't that you can debate endlessly. I don't think you can debate the ending of this book. It is what she presented, as far as I'm concerned. I'm a fan of the unreliable narrator when it supports the story. Again, I'll bring up as far as movies, Gone Girl's a really good example. I really enjoyed the book, not so much the movie, of Shutter Island, where you're following this character and then you recontextualize everything. And when it's done in support of the narrative, where it's not just used to obscure, I think it can be done really well. But I don't think it was done well here, because in the end, it was just, how can I make this more suspenseful and more mysterious? Oh, now she's got a brain trauma and she's in the hospital. That being said, at the very beginning, I think it was successful in the idea that it sets up something bad happened and we don't know what it is. But I think the execution fell apart for me.
Yeah, I think I lean more towards your side on that, Dan. I actually didn't even pick up on her trying the unreliable narrator, in the sense that she had a brain injury in the hospital and didn't know. So she's piecing things back together and she learns more and more. I didn't even consider for a second that we might not be getting the full truth here. I think that almost gives too much credit to the writing. I think we got the truth. I don't think there's a true unreliable narrator here. But I may just have a wrong definition of unreliable narrator.
I think, to kind of bounce off of what you just said, Colin, I think the unreliable narrator working would have to mean that we suspect, and she tried to set this up, that Nora might have done it. But you didn't. I didn't. Did you, Heidi?
No, of course not.
Yeah. So if she had given us an actual, concrete reason to believe that Nora may have done it, then that might have worked more. She has the thought, oh God, what if I did it? But I as a reader didn't buy that,
Yeah.
So I think that's why it didn't work for me.
I will say, personally, I kind of wish that was the twist. I wish she did do it. I think that would have been a more interesting plot line had she actually done it. I think that would be interesting, where it's like she's putting the pieces together and it's like, oh shit, I did do this. I think,
and then finding out why she did it would be the interesting bit
as the memories come back.
On the opposite side, I will say I'm glad that it wasn't Flo, because again, that was way too obvious. But also, that girl clearly has some she commits suicide.
Yeah.
She's clearly got some mental problems, and I'm glad that it didn't just become, well, she's just mentally disturbed.
Yeah.
Not that the rest of the disability representation is great, but at least it wasn't that.
Especially because they kind of pick on her a lot too, so it'd make it kind of feel more icky too.
Yeah. I think, and also, the other thing is that Nora, we'll talk about this a little bit too in my next question, but she's an author, and so she admits to herself that she reflexively fills in the gaps, and I think that was like, if she were to have explored that more, I think it would have made the unreliable narrator a little bit more convincing. Like, she is isolated in the hospital for most of the time. She doesn't get to talk to anybody. She doesn't get anybody else's story. That maybe would have made it more convoluted for her and maybe would have made that make more sense.
As a writer, she doesn't fill in enough fucking gaps. I'll tell you that, because
Right.
she's a crime writer. I'm sorry, this bugs me. She's a crime writer, right? So she spends a lot of time of her day figuring out how a killer might kill somebody. Yet she finds in this house the woman that she is like, okay, I know that she killed her fiance now, who offers her a tea, and she drinks it.
I mean, even just showing up. Like, you
Yeah.
talk about the tea is really bad, though.
I was talking to my dad about this book, and at one point he's like, this sounds like the commercial. It's like a horror movie spoof, and they're running around, and they're like, we should get into the car that has the key in it. No, we should run into this garage that has the hanging chainsaws. That's what this book felt like.
That's smart. I love that commercial. Allstate,
Like,
right? Or something like that.
And it's not a horror book. It's not supposed to be a send up of 80s slasher movies. So like, it didn't work at all. The fact that they're just so fucking dumb in this book. I'm sorry, the characters are dumb, every single one of them.
Yeah, and sometimes that works,
And it could be resolved like any Hallmark movie could be resolved, where if they just talk to each other. If Nora had talked to whatever the hell his name was, because I didn't even care about him, once in 10 years. But also, I'm sorry, Nora, you broke up with him when you were 18. Number one, you were more concerned about losing him than you were about getting a fucking abortion. But also, it has been 10 years. I'm sorry. You're a teenager. I get that some people marry their high school sweethearts, but you didn't. Like, get over him. Get over him.
I'll give her some slack with that, just because, like, he was her, like, she lost his virginity to him, and he was like this perfect picture, and then suddenly flipped like a switch. So I'll cut her some slack on the obsession part.
Yeah, I think that's like a little bit trauma response,
Exactly.
especially to like where they are. Like she's in a house in the woods because like she's lived her life, fine. She hasn't dated anybody else or whatever. Then she gets to this place with her high school bully and then bestie bully, whatever, Claire. And I think this is like half me defending that point, but also half this is a criticism of mine too. It's just that she regresses to that point where she was in high school, being back in that setting, I think.
Yeah.
So I
They
think
act like children.
Yeah, exactly.
And like cliquey children. Like if you had convinced me that this was like the cast of Mean Girls, I could be like, yeah. I
was going to say Mean Girls and Murder, for sure. Yeah.
Real quick before we get to the next question, because we kind of danced around this too in the intro, and Dan mentioned again there too. I am so disappointed. My main disappointment in the book is actually the lack of horror. Because even like, I don't know if it was a true prologue, but it was like the first chapter. And it was like a really like interesting, thrilling chapter where she's like running through the woods, right? Or she's at least describing the dark woods. And I'm like, oh, like, I can't wait to get back to this point. And it just kind of never got scary again. And I think the setting would have made for a fantastic little cozy horror movie there in that cabin setting with the snow, and they set it up with the footprints and the door opening. But it was just never scary. That was a bummer to me.
If the setting absolutely works, and I think you could easily set up the fiance coming back in a way that has horror to it, but she didn't.
Yeah. We'll talk about the setting after this, but I really wanted to talk about the Lenora, Lee, and Nora situation, the three names, the significance of them, and like how it affects her personally and her relationships within the setting. This, for me, at least, was like, again, not particularly unique as far. I read a lot of thriller. I read a lot of horror. This is something that I have seen a lot of, and that part's not the criticism. I think it can be interesting. I just, for reasons that Dan is going to take over because he's more knowledgeable about it, but partially because of the disability representation, it wasn't good. But also, I just think it wasn't explored enough in a lot of ways. And when it's not, it really falls flat.
I mean, I will
I'm
go
going
for
to
it, Colin.
quickly interject just because mine is really short and Dan's is much more interesting critique. My thing with this is I actually think there's no layers to it. I think she just needed a twist, and she had her original twist. I think she wrote this book of how she wanted our character to put the pieces together, which is the misspelling of Leo and Lee, or not misspelling, but the villain slip up. And I think she wrote the character around the twist. So I think that's how she came up with the names. And as we get into it, I think it shows too Lee that Claire was never her friend, but a bully and a control freak. With the Leo, because maybe it was cute, and Nora because she's putting that behind. And I think she had this like smart, cutesy idea with her character and had a twist. And that's how I think she wrote the names and the character around the twist. And I think this is going to sound really mean, and I don't mean it as mean as it's going to sound because I actually did like the book for the most part. I think adding any more depth to that is giving her too much. But I promise I don't mean to be mean.
So I do want to say that, like, while I do have the knowledge, I know that you noticed it too, Heidi. So one of the things about this ability is, like, yeah, I've got all the theory in my head, but if you know what to look for, you'll see it. You don't need to necessarily have the tons of like graduate level theory that I do. But that being said, God, the stuttering bothered me. So there's a concept known as like narrative prosthesis, and that's exactly what it's used as, where it's signaling to the audience that she is reverting to this childhood state because she is going back to stuttering. And it is showing the audience that the stuttering is, and this is a stereotypical thing in fiction, is this it's not a neurological difference. It's not an actual disability. It is a symbol of this person who is not confident, does not have control, who is less than. And she, number one, we never find out like that she took speech therapy classes to get rid of it, which also would be problematic if you think of disability from the medical model, but leaving that aside, we never find out that she got rid of it, only that Nora doesn't have it because she moved away and she's a confident woman now. And of course, a confident woman wouldn't stutter. And then she starts stuttering as she becomes Lee again. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not that it's a neurological disability. It's just, let's show people that people with stutters are neurotic. That's not what a stutter is. It's not. And it's, as somebody who wants to see more actual good disability theory and representation in books, representation does not just mean that a character has a trait. It means that the trait is used in a way that is respectful and humane and does not rely on harmful stereotypes. I've met extremely intelligent people who stutter. It's
Joe
not
Biden, president.
I have had some issues with stuttering throughout my life as well. It's not a thing where it doesn't mean that you are not as smart or you are not in control. It's just your brain's getting ahead of your words and you stutter. That's all it is. And so her relying on that to be a signpost, to be a signifier that we are going backwards in her childhood and she's less powerful with it. Because you and I, Heidi, were talking off camera a little bit about her versus maybe Bill in It. Bill is a more powerful character, arguably, when he has his stutter. She's less. There's no denying that. And so I have a lot of problems with it, but as somebody who disability representation is important to me, that really fails.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the fact that she multiple times, like obviously the other characters are like Claire is not a good person. That's clear. But like the way that it was weaponized was so icky. It just, I think it maybe could have been done in a way that wasn't so weird and gross, but it just felt bad how, like, it felt like the author was being mean about it. Not that Claire was, I don't know, like her being so clear, like, it's Nora, like, I go by Nora, and then, like, that, her being called Lee, triggering it, and, like, her like regressing into herself. I'm like, well, this feels mean. It feels mean and bad. Like that. I think too, because it's unrealistic in the fact that, like, I've known plenty of people with stutters, and me calling them by one nickname has never once triggered a stutter, like their stutter in one way. Like, it just doesn't make
Because
sense.
it's neurological, not a character trait.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, it was icky. It was icky. And, like, also the Nora just didn't have enough depth for me for those, like, the distinction of all four, I guess, because Lenora, Leo, Lee, Nora. But there just wasn't enough distinction between all of them to where, like, anything made sense other than that. And I think, like Colin said, it was her cutesy little tool for the twist.
And I will tell you why that twist fell completely short for me. She put so much stock in these identities where no one else can ever call her Leo. That's only James's name for her. And Lee, she hates Lee so much. That is childhood Lee. And she's been obsessing over this breakup for 10 years. How did she never put that together?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I rationalized it was like him
being
being mean. Like, he was being mean in the breakup text. Like, that's how I saw it initially. But again, like, that part of it wasn't addressed. So, like, she never was like, he was being mean in the message, that's why he called me Lee and not Leo. And then her being like, oh no, that's not why he called me that. It's because it wasn't him. Like, I feel like that statement could have made it more well-rounded and make more sense, but that it was never said in
something simple as I read it and it hurt so much that I deleted it and never looked at it again. No,
Right,
she obsessed
right.
over the message.
Right.
Like,
I don't think she deleted it.
no,
No.
it's like, yeah, I agree. It's like, are you telling me you're just now real convenient?
Yeah, in the spur of the moment, when she was a teenager, I could see it. But as something that she has obsessed over for 10 years, and again, it really bothers me that, like, it was the breakup that bothered her. It wasn't losing her baby, because that is a traumatic thing. And she spends no time whatsoever on the abortion was something traumatic that I had to go through because of that. It's, he dumped me.
Yeah, and she even tries to make, like, the joke about it where she's like, I didn't even care about the clump of cells, she calls it. I just so sad at losing James. I was like, I don't know if that's like a real human reaction there.
Yeah,
Like, no matter what, like,
not as far as I've ever seen.
yeah, it's just like that's always a brutal choice, no matter how side of the choice you are, because I mean, can have consequential health risks. It can have all sorts of things.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's a huge privacy thing too. You have to make a crazy privacy choice that that no woman wants to make. And just to kind of joke it off and then focus on the guy it's just, I'm not going to say like sit here and say like, oh, that was like such a careless decision by her. It just felt like a non-human choice. Like, it didn't feel, it felt flat.
You know what it feels like? And I don't want to prescribe any political affiliations. I'm just saying what it feels like. It feels like what conservatives think liberals think about abortion.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I wrote that down. That I was like, I don't know if that's somebody who would actually go. I'm pretty sure somebody by looking can tell I've had 0 abortions in my life, personally. So I don't know what somebody
going on the record with that, Colin, huh?
Going on the record that I have not personally undergone an abortion procedure, but I would think that it would take more care and thought.
But also, to be fair, and because you mentioned that, it felt mean from the writer, Heidi, I also want to caution that bad disability representation doesn't, and I know you weren't saying this, I just want to make this clear. Bad disability representation doesn't always mean malicious intent by the author. It could be a lack of knowledge or care that was put into it. It doesn't mean that she necessarily thinks this way about a stutter or any disability. It's just that's unfortunately the way that what she wrote comes off as.
That is true. On the abortion aspect, think that there are definitely people in the world who have gotten abortions who feel that way about it. However, I think it was super out of character for Nora. I think that she's portrayed as very, very sensitive. I mean, we are in her head. She's really sensitive. Everything that everybody is doing around her, she picks up on little things. Somebody looks a certain way, she's like, oh, I think they're thinking this. So I think it would have made more sense if it was like Nina having this opinion about it, because Nina is
that's a
like
good point. That's a
brash
good point.
and harsh and
maybe that's the scientific view that she looks at it with.
exactly. I think it was. I don't think it's necessarily unrealistic. I just think it doesn't make sense for Nora, especially as a teen. I mean, she was that broken up about. I feel like she could have like spiraled completely because of it. She loved him that much. That was his baby too. But it was just a clump of cells. Whatever. I don't care. Like that to me, like there's such a divide. Like it didn't make sense to me. But like the actual like thought process, I could see somebody having that opinion about having an abortion for sure.
That's a
Yeah,
good
I'm
point.
I'm sure somebody has that, but like you said, not
Not
someone
this
as
character.
introspective as Nora.
Yeah, and especially her at 16. Like that's just that
And somebody who cares so much about what everybody else thinks of her.
exactly.
Like, if
Yeah,
nothing
exactly.
else, that would be something.
Right. Yeah, completely. The reason I put this discussion last is it's the best part, the most well done part of the book, which is the setting, the glass house. I mean, Ruth Ware is very obvious about what the glass house represents, what it means for all of the characters. And we've touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about it because we've really gone in on this book, rightfully so. But this is something that I felt was the most well done, and a little bit maybe even like takes away from the rest. Like it makes the book seem a little worse because there was like a lot of potential, I think, that was sort of left with it because it was so cool to me.
Finally, something I can actually be positive on. I thought the setting and everything was done really well. The build-up is the best part of this book. The building of tension. Now, there are still some problems. I think she does interrupt herself narratively at parts where, like, I just wanted more, and then you go to the hospital and you're like, what's going on? Which I think was meant to be some of the buildup, but the setting itself is an excellent example of something that really, really grabs onto you and really, if it was used correctly, could have been so good in a payoff. The playwright friend that's staying with them says something about the fact that they're all, because it's all this glass house, they're all acting for anybody who's outside the house. They're all actors on a stage. So I'm just sad that it didn't have the payoff that it deserved.
I like the setting in general. I love the woods, big cabin guy. So anytime we can get out there, it's real enjoyable for me. Also, there's so many layups with that kind of setting too. You know, you have snow that can add an interesting, thrilling aspect. You have doors that open a little bit easier with some drafts and stuff than you would otherwise. You have the dark setting. And I like throwing the modern looking glass house out there. The glass house is such a great symbol in literature, a really common one, because it can kind of be what you need it to be for your character. It can represent a character's, hypocrisy. It can do their vulnerability or something where you can see right through them. But you can go the blatant, you shouldn't throw a stone at that thing with all that. So it's just a great symbol that you can talk yourself into whatever you want it to mean, to almost mean. And I think it's really done well here for these type of characters for what they're going through. I think I would agree with you both that the setting's probably the best part of this, and actually getting there to the setting, Dan, you mentioned this, is really probably my favorite parts of the book too, where it's really interesting as the guests are starting to arrive. We're kind of just like we're waiting for Claire to arrive. I remember I was like nervous reading this, waiting for Claire to arrive, and like, what time is she gonna arrive? 6 p.m. I think. And it's like, oh, I'm really scared. And then some of those first nights there, were really interesting too, where they're drinking. Tom brings his cocaine and stuff. Also, side point, I will cut Ware some slack because she's British, so maybe it's not as egregious to them. Never have your Tom character call themselves Uncle Tom. Never, just don't do it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-mm.
It's not a good thing to have happen.
Yeah, she's British,
Maybe
so
she's British, and I have a huge British bias, so I am gonna be mad at her. I'm just kidding. Not kidding.
established.
Um,
Yeah, he's not kidding.
I maybe in English culture, it's not as egregious to do that as an American writer. It'd be pretty bad if you did that, unless you're doing it purposefully. But here, I mean, he's not by the literary definition. He's just a dude named Tom who's out with the girlies.
No, there's very specific connotation to Uncle Tom.
Yeah, exactly. And so I didn't like that, but he was a pretty funny character in general, and he was a funny like plot device in there to kind of add stuff. I love those early nights where they're doing. Nina's such an asshole, so I love her.
Yeah.
I forget his last name, but who effed James basically here. I love those
That was
moments. Like they're so
insane.
funny to me. Those are my favorite parts of the book. I think the book would almost be more interesting if it was like that. But yeah, great setting. Boxing them into this remote location, having a main character who can't drive. It really does allow you to add for some thrilling aspects that maybe weren't taken advantage of.
Yeah, you brought up something interesting that I thought at some point would pay off, which was the idea that a glass house could easily be hypocrisy or don't throw stones in a glass house, which is one of the reasons why, even though I saw the Claire thing coming, I thought, ooh, it would be really cool if, like we talked about, if Nora did do it, because then that would feed so much more into the glass house.
Right.
It would be so much more meaning to it. Didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was exactly what Tom says it was at a certain point. It was a stage. I mean, it was Claire acting, and she was not a good actor, at least from our perspective. But yeah, for me, it was the one cool part. I also remember the Ouija board part. I thought it was going to get spooky there too, and it didn't.
Yeah,
I thought so too.
When you were talking about that night,
A
I was
lot
like,
of
oh, yeah, it's a
opportunities.
Ouija board.
It almost felt like, you know how we always say like we wish authors would do less with their books? It's almost like I wish she would try to do more, which is a rare thing for me to sit here and say. Like, almost like, you know what, take an extra 100 pages and kind of flesh these horror elements out. I think you get a much better product. I don't
Yeah.
know how it works in the publishing world. Maybe she couldn't, but
Or really think through your symbolism, because while the glass house worked for me, it is not the eyes on the billboard in Great Gatsby.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you guys got any final thoughts?
you go
I'm
ahead.
glad that I haven't read a thriller in a while, and even though I didn't like this book, I'm glad that I did. I think vastly prefer sci-fi and fantasy, but I'm sure that we will read, especially because I know you like the genre, Heidi, some thrillers that I do actually vibe with. And I used to like them when I was younger, but I think I read too many James Pattersons that really just kind of, my mom really liked them. That's my only excuse.
It's a good excuse.
So
It's
they
the only
were
excuse.
around. They were around the house. But I'm glad that I reached outside my usual comfort genre.
Yeah, same here. I don't have too many closing thoughts. I'll save it for when we grade it out.
Yeah, we kind of talked about everything I wanted to. Love thriller. I will be recommending more and for the podcast, and ones by authors that I have read previously that have a good track record. I think a lot of the stuff, the last thing I'll say, a lot of the stuff that we had issues with, especially like what Colin said, like wishing it was more flushed out, debut novel. I think a lot of it has to do with that too.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And there also may be, what's the intended audience here? Is it actual literary? Is it people who think heart? This is going to sound really mean, but I don't mean it like this. Is the intended audience people who actually think about these literary devices and disability representation, or is it the people who, like we were saying, mom readers who, at least that's how my mom usually was, thriller and romance? It
Yeah.
seems like it was more written for her than it was for me.
Yeah, and I don't mean this as a stab, but like Colleen Hoover fans, right? Like people who like those kind of books, or the Frida McFadden. I don't know if you guys are aware of that author, but she has like a whole table at all my Barnes and Noble. And it's just
Yeah.
all like the same titles. It's like The Boyfriend, The Enter, and
Yeah.
but
I am aware of her.
but my girlfriend loves those books, and my girlfriend reads like a book a week. She loves those books, so it's like, there's books for everybody out there. Like I would recommend this there.
Yeah. And no shade to those people at all. Reading is for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah. If
Obviously.
it sounded like I was making fun of them, I wasn't.
Yeah.
It's not my cup of tea. It's I read. I think it's, some people read for the intellectual, like I want to analyze this book, and some people read for the I want to be taken on a ride. And I can be
Mhm.
both of those people, but I tend to go more intellectually driven to
Yeah.
analyze. Hence
Yeah.
why we're doing this.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So should we give it a rating? Whether we want to do stars or tiers?
Yeah, I think it's easier for me to do out of 10 on this one actually, which is rare, and I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. I think it's pass. It's a pass. There's some people out there I would recommend it to, specific people.
I don't usually give star ratings. Even when I read something on Goodreads or Storygraphs, I often will not give it a star rating. Just 'cause like I said, I find them limiting. That being said, I gave it a 2 out of 5 on Goodreads, and the reason why, and I think I gave it maybe a little bit less, 1.5, 1.75. I have a lot of problems with it, as has been made clear over the last hour. But with that being said, I think there was enough skill in the writing here that I didn't want to completely dismiss it as a 1 star, because I feel like 1 stars are the why did this get written or who thought this was any good kind of books. As far as tier ratings go, it would be something like that. If I don't own it physically, but if I did, I would donate it to my library.
yeah. I think I gave it like 3 stars. I'm with Colin too, 6 out of 10. I am glad I read it. I would find someone who I think who I think would like it, and let them borrow my copy, and if they didn't give it back, I would not be upset, I think. I don't need to reread it. I know the twist. Like, what do I need to reread it for? I kind of am that way with thrillers in general for the most part. If there is a twist, sometimes they don't have twists. They're just exciting. But anyway, yeah, I think, or I would like the coffee shop that I go to has a little free library inside it, and maybe I'll put it in there actually, because there's always thrillers being rotated out in there. So I think I would do that.
Moving on to one of our last closing segments. If I were to recommend, if you like this book, I would probably recommend, and I mentioned it before, but I'd probably recommend Shutter Island to you, or the movie Gone Girl. I know there is a book, but I don't feel comfortable wrecking the book when I've never read the book. But I think if you enjoyed this, and you'd certainly enjoy the movie Gone Girl. Shutter Island. Have either of you read it or seen the movie?
Seen the movie.
Okay,
Didn't know it was a book.
I didn't know it was a book either.
It was
Would like to
originally a
read.
book. Dennis Lehane, I believe, wrote it. Very good. I'm not going to spoil the twist, but I think it works better in a literary setting than it did on film. Investigator goes to an island that is full of, or a mental facility island. Strange things start happening there. Especially if you wanted this book to contain more horror elements. That one does, if I remember right. I believe it does. And I think the twist is handled better in that book. I feel like twisty narratives.
I'm not going to recommend a book, if that's okay. I'm going to recommend a movie that I think if you like this book, you would like a movie if that passes.
Yeah, go for it.
Dan, I think you've seen I think Dutch version. I don't know if you have actually, but it came out last year in the States, an English version, Speak No Evil. Did you guys see that one?
Yes, I did see the foreign version of it. Yes.
Did I see it?
It's similar in the sense that couples make really stupid decisions and go to this, like, not necessarily kind of a cabin, but it's their actual house way far in the remote wilderness away from society. They kind of live off grid, and it's like a couple they had just met, like on their own vacation once, and they're kind of trying to piece together why things are so odd, and they're really oblivious to some stuff they make. That's what I kept coming to when I read this. It's not a great movie, it's not groundbreaking, but it's a very fun, thrilling movie to watch at home if you can't find something. And it's I think it's actually free streaming somewhere. I forget where. I think Netflix maybe. And It's one I would recommend if you just want to throw a movie on while you're laying in bed one night. It's pretty decently made. It's not groundbreaking like I said, but it's really entertaining, fast-paced, fun. It's pretty thrilling too, and fantastic acting in it, which will always take you out of a movie if the acting's bad. I'd
Can I
recommend that.
throw
Similar settings.
one bonus in there before you give one, Heidi?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Only because when you were first talking, I thought this was what you were going to say. Have either of you seen it was made into an English movie, not as nearly as successful, Good Night, Mommy?
Mm-mm.
It's another one of these horror thriller kind of straddling the difference movies, but the German, if you're going to watch a German version, much better. Woman has surgery. Her 2 young boys, when she gets back, are not sure that's actually their mom. Very twisty, very
Interesting.
claustrophobic kind of setting like we have in this book. And again, the twist is kind of iconic in horror movies these days.
It's interesting. I'm gonna check that out.
I will recommend the book Gone Girl. I have read it. Not only that, but Gone Girl and Gillian Flynn's, she has other books too, Sharp Objects and Dark Places. Really, really good. Thrillery. They have like that mystery aspect also, especially Sharp Objects. I have a million thrillers that I have read that are along the same vein as this, that are better. Yeah. I'm not trying to be mean. I did enjoy the book, but specifically
Look, we're
those
allowed
three.
to be critical.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're not going to hurt Ruth Ware's feelings compared
No,
to the
she's-
money
yeah.
she's
Hey,
made.
we all three still bought it from her. She still got
Yeah.
paid.
At the end of the day, she's got the last laugh.
Yeah, that is true.
If we do not have any further thoughts, I'm excited for next week's rec, which has been on my TBR for a long time. But Colin, what are we reading next week?
We are reading R.F. Kuang's The Poppy War, the first book in the Poppy War trilogy. I'm really excited for this one. Huge R.F. Kuang fan. Very excited to talk about this one with you guys. Also, gorgeous Barnes & Noble special edition sprayed edges.
Ooh, I am a slut for sprayed edges. I really am.
They're so good. They're so good. And but this book's really interesting. It basically follows a girl. She's an orphan, and her parents are crime bosses, and an opium trade, which is a favorite of R.F. Kuang's thing to talk about, is opium in her books. And basically, she is super talented, and they try to arrange this wedding for her, and she wants out of it, so she takes their version of placement test, basically, and is top valedictorian #1. So she gets into this exclusive military academy where she learns she has a long-lost magical ability, and that basically puts her at the top of the list to basically go to war. And her homeland is about to be invaded for, I think it's the third Poppy War, and we kind of explore the idea that war is not as glorious as some media may portray it to be. So it kind of really talks about the reality and brutality of war and this idea of losing yourself and trying to save yourself. I'm very excited for it. I'm a huge fan of Chinese history in general, and it borrows a lot from Sino-Japan, kind of feudal conflicts and stuff like that. So I'm really excited for some of those aspects to talk about it with you guys. And R.F. Kuang is like top 3 greatest writers currently practicing for me right now. So it's gonna be awesome.
I'm excited. I've been, like I said, it's been on my TBR for a long time.
Yeah, me
With
too.
that being said, we've rambled on for a long time. Apologies for anybody who I might have gotten a little bit too negative here, but I think it's good that we don't always agree on books. Well, I think that does do it for us here. So, for the podcast, I'm Daniel.
I'm Heidi.
And I'm Colin.
And like always, keep reading. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, everyone. Before we go, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at contact@wordswordspod.com. Don't worry, I'll put it in the text of the show. Or you can find us on Instagram at wordswordspod. Whether you have book recommendations, thoughts on today's discussion, or just want to say hi, we are always excited to connect with fellow readers.
And speaking of community, if you're looking for more conversation between episodes, We've got a Discord server where we talk books, share recommendations, and just generally geek out about all things speculative fiction. The link is in the show notes, and we'd love to see you there.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and following us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast needs served. It really helps us reach more readers and keep those conversations going. Thanks so much for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time on Words, Words, Words.